Yeah, here we are again, Willowy Distribution Center, Avon, Ohio. Last week, talked about plants that produce berries, fruits, something for that fall look, and even going into winter. Today, I want to do something that's similar and talk about plants that have distinct winter interest, such as plants that exfoliate, peel their barks. Many varieties do. Another one is plants that may bloom in the wintertime, and there are some. And unusual form plants, unusual shapes, plants that are wide open with unusual structure to them that also produce good winter interest. So right now what I want to start with is Hydrangea petiolaris, climbing hydrangea. You've seen this one before this year. And this is one, it can spread anywhere 25, 35 foot. It's a climber. It does cling to walls, what have you. It does have aerial roots, but it also exfoliates. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. This is a sample of what I'm talking about. I think you can see it. My finger, you see how this bark is a little different color, and there is bark peeling right here. This plant will do this, so it has a change of color throughout its many years of life, and that is caused by the peeling of the bark. Very interesting plant, very interesting. So it's very, very versatile. Yeah, the next one I'd like you to see, this is Oakleaf Hydrangea. Not all the hydrangeas do this, but Oakleaf is a very good example of exfoliating bark, and you can see it. The bark underneath is a little darker. The lighter bark that is peeling is a little lighter. Yeah, what you're looking at right now is limelight hydrangea. Now, you might not agree with this, but I personally, and many people do, feel that by leaving the flowers on as they dry, on all hydrangeas basically, until they really get bad, leave them on. They go from, say, a whitish green on this one into more of a white, and then they start reverting back to a greenish white, and then they go to brown. Well, over the winter time, I think that's a pretty attractive a look for a yard that has basically nothing going on. So if they don't get too bad, leave them on all winter long. Yeah, now we're going to show you an example of a great plant for unusual form. This is a weeping Japanese maple, and as you can see from the shot, look at that branch structure. Most people, like they buy a Christmas tree, have to have a perfect tree. Well, that's not the way plants are made. We don't punch them out on a machine, nor does anybody else. But it is good to look for plants, especially something like Jap maple, with an unusual form, because in the long run, that goes all 12 months. Now in the winter, when all those leaves drop off, that's what you're going to see. And that alone is an attractant, a visual attractant. And fit real good woodland gardens, Japanese gardening, or any place it really fits. I don't know if I'd use it in a formal garden situation, but there's many chances to use unusual form plants. Yeah, we're now looking at the red stem dogwood. Most guys are familiar with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant to put in a planting, because I think they're more showy right now as the leaves drop off than they are when they have leaves all over them. You can see the red bark, and that just intensifies as the weather gets colder. So it is just a great plant for winter color. Now you're looking at a plant, it's Corylus contorta, or Harry Lauder's walking stick. This is a very, very old variety, one of my favorite plants, and I think as you look at it, you can see why. The branches are twisted, kind of corkscrew-like. Just a great, great plant. Gets up about 8-10 foot. It can be kept down, no problem. The leaves are kind of like a heart-shaped leaf throughout the season. But it's noted for its winter interest, and boy, I think you can see what I'm talking about. Now you're looking at a Metasequoia. This is another one that peels bark. And as you can see, the two different colors of the bark from this close-up. It's just starting. A lot of times age has something to do with when they start peeling. This one is just getting going. But boy, it really looks good. And this particular plant, although it looks like an evergreen, is deciduous. They drop these needles every year in the fall after they turn gold. And then the bark shows. Well, here's the most common example of exfoliating bark, of course, with birch trees. Most of them do it. With birch, it's an age type thing. When they start getting around maybe 1.5 inches or so, maybe a little bigger, a tad smaller, you'll start see them shedding their bark. And it really, really is a nice look, because then you start seeing like a cinnamon color with a white color mixed in. This is the most famous plant for exfoliation and a major characteristic of the plant. Okay, you've seen this plant before throughout the summer. This is that little dwarf birch called Little King. It gets up probably about 10, 12 foot tall with a similar spread. And as this thing grows and starts to mature, it's a good idea to take off the bottom branches, head it up a little bit, and then you'll get to see the bark, which is also peeling on this, and it really, really makes a nice small tree in the right setting. Now you're looking at a rather new plant. It is a red bud. It is called Ruby Falls. As you can see, it is a strong weeper, and we grow them in two forms. We grow them in this prostrate form, and you talk about a plant with winter interest. Try to envision this with no leaves on it. It is a beauty. And next, we're going to show you the upright form. And this is the upright form of Ruby Falls. It's just a matter of how they are trained. Try to envision that without the leaves on it, and that downward branching. That's very, very interesting. They both are excellent forms and a very, very nice plant. Yeah, now you're looking at witch hazel. Very, very much underused. It's a great plant, but what's so nice about it, this is a plant that will bloom actually in the wintertime. There are some varieties that will actually be in bloom right about now or a few weeks from now, very early bloomers. Then a lot of them will start blooming in February, finish up in March, come in various colors, kind of a coppery type color. A couple of them are pure yellow. And they actually are a small ornamental tree. You can grow them either way as a shrub or a tree, but they can get some size to them. Most of them, depends on variety, go from 10 to 20 foot. Yeah, so it is a perfect small tree with great winter interest. Now you're looking at a plant that is finally making a strong comeback in the market. Everybody remembers the name Lenten Rose. Hellebores is the botanical. This is a great plant. It does not get real big. It is an evergreen. It does very well semi-shade, shade areas. It usually will pop into bloom. Oh, I've seen them as early as the end of January, but somewhere during February, possibly March, depending upon weather. They don't get real large. There's many, many, many new colors out. Too many to mention right now. But it is just a great little plant for winter interest. Now I would like to talk about pansies. Might sound silly, seeing that winter's coming on. But in years past, when I was a young landscaper, which was many years ago, fall pansy planting was a very, very large thing, similar to planting annuals. And I'm not sure people know what to do with them now, or the interest is just gone. I don't think it should be. Pansies should be planted in the fall. Believe it or not, they do winter over. They're not like begonias and geraniums, annuals. They winter over. They give you a splash of color in the fall, late fall. Then, of course, winter comes on. They get buried in the snow. And then we have our ups and downs on temperatures. Well, the pansies, even in January, if we have our so-called January thaw, believe it or not, the pansies will start blooming in midwinter. They go and they go and go like that all winter long, and when spring finally hits, because they are a cool season plant, they do their best blooming when it's a cool climate, cool temperatures. Now, in the spring is when they really take off. They triple in size. They put on one nice display during March, April, and May. But as soon as the temperatures start rising, they start getting leggy. What most people do at that point in time, they will take them out, prepare the bed, and put in the real annuals, such as begonias. But pansies are something that give you so much color in the fall when color is lacking, and early spring when color is lacking. So a bed of pansies is very worthwhile. And boy, it sure does look good at those dismal times in the season. What you're looking at now is a tree, small growing tree called ASA Grissom. It is one fine tree, highly underused, but one of the main characteristics is the exfoliating bark, as you can see. And as it exfoliates, the bark is kind of a cinnamon color when it's not exfoliating, and as it exfoliates, you can see it turns lighter. It's a beautiful contrast between the older bark and the younger bark. The tree only gets up somewhere in that 15 to 20 foot range. Just a nice little tree. Consider it for planting in a small area. Yeah, what you're looking at now is a weeping beech, green weeping beech. As you can see, you talk about winter interest and unusual form. This is just a fine plant for that look. And it can be used in many situations. It's just one nice, beautiful tree. Well, we're going to wrap it up today showing you some grasses, and I'll give you my opinion on keeping the seed pods on all winter long. Let the grass turn brown. It kind of becomes a nice focal point in gardens, even though it is brown. But actually, grasses will go for the whole year for you if you want to do that. The seed pods do hold on all winter long. If snow is a worry, bigger, taller ones, just tie them around a couple times nicely. That way the snow will bury them down. So right now we're going to call it an end and hope to see you next week.